What's the last commercial or ad you remember seeing? Check this out. Did you know companies are getting smarter and smarter with the ads they show you? These companies know how old you are, where you live, what music you listen to, and what you look at online, which means they get really good at showing you ads for stuff that you actually want to buy.
But do you know what kinds of targeted ads you see when you get to be, say, my age? Anti-aging cream, anti-aging vitamins, anti-aging plastic surgery, anti-aging everything. Apparently people my age buy a lot of stuff to help them look less old and wrinkly. And maybe there are some of us whose appearances have improved with age, huh? But for the most part, most adults are desperately trying to look younger. And at the same time, I bet the opposite is true for some of you.
I bet some of you wish you were just a little bit older. Not wrinkly old or bald head old, but maybe just old enough to drive a car or to go on a date without having your mom or dad supervise, or old enough to make more of your own decisions. But being older isn't always easy. Someday when you're my age, you might find yourself at Walmart buying anti-aging cream and wishing you could be young again. I mean, think about the best parts of being young. You don't have to pay bills or worry about taxes or get a job. Being young has its perks.
But okay, maybe you're not buying it. Maybe you feel like when it comes to being young, the negatives kind of outweigh the positives. I get it. But here's the secret. I actually used to be in middle school once. And yeah, sometimes being your age is frustrating. Sometimes you feel a little powerless. And sometimes it feels like no one takes you seriously or values your opinion.
I remember the first time I had a girlfriend. I was in 3rd grade, and me and the love of my life, Christy Beasley, started going out. Our love was real, so real that the next day she bought me a gold necklace, which obviously was a reflection of the quality of her love for me. I proudly wore that necklace home, but when my parents saw it, they told me I was both too young to wear a necklace and too young to have a girlfriend. They made me go back to school the next day and give the necklace back and break the poor girl's heart, all because they thought I was too young.
Have you ever been there? Have you ever wanted so badly to be older? Maybe you feel like your real life hasn't really begun yet. Maybe you even come to church where you hear us say things like, God has a story to tell with your life. And you sit there and think, well, maybe someday. Today, I want to challenge you to think a little differently about being young. I think God has a few things to say about it. Like maybe how being young doesn't mean you can't make a big difference or do incredible things.
Let's take a look at a letter Paul, an apostle of Jesus, wrote to Timothy, a young leader in the early church. Timothy was not some old dude. He was young, and Paul picked him to be the leader of a church in a place called Ephesus after he personally mentored him and helped him grow in his faith. We have a couple of letters that Paul wrote to Timothy preserved in the Bible, letters which we call 1st and 2nd Timothy. Historians believe that these letters were probably written toward the end of Paul's life. Think about what it would be like to receive an urgent letter from an important mentor or teacher, a letter filled with what might be their very last words.
If someone writes you a letter, knowing they're probably nearing the end of their life, you're probably going to want to pay attention, right? These were Paul's final words to a young leader, and they were important. Listen to what Paul desperately wanted Timothy to understand. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity.
Paul is encouraging Timothy to lead. And this was a big deal because as a leader, Timothy would have to supervise other leaders in the church who were older and maybe even more experienced. Some of those leaders probably weren't thrilled about being led by a young guy like Timothy. Maybe that's why Paul told Timothy to not worry or let anyone give him a hard time about being young. Paul needed Timothy to believe that he could lead and make a difference right then and there.
It's almost like Paul was saying, hey, Timothy, I believe in you. You should believe in you too. And Paul's words worked. Timothy listened. He didn't let being young keep him from leading and making a big difference. And you know what? I think the words Paul said to Timothy are words that some of you need to hear today too. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. You can make a difference for God in the world right now. But first, you have to believe it.
If you think you can't make much of a difference because of your age, you can. Paul says so. I say so. And God says so too. If you want to make a difference, believe you can. It starts there, because the way you see yourself will impact the way others see you. If you want others to see you as a leader, a difference maker, a world changer, then you need to start seeing yourself that way. Even if an adult points out and says, "You're just a kid," don't let that discourage you. Lean into all God is calling you to do right now as a middle schooler. Believe in you because God believed in you first.
Check this out. Jordan Romero from the U.S. climbed Mount Everest at the age of 13. Nadia Comaneci was the first gymnast to receive a perfect score of 10 in the Olympics and won 3 Olympic gold medals at age 14. Malala Yousafzai is a 16-year-old Pakistani girl who stood against the Taliban by declaring that young girls should be allowed to get an education and even survived an assassination attempt. Mozart had written 5 operas by the time he was 14 that are still professionally performed.
What makes these middle schoolers and high schoolers so special? Not much, except that they believed they could make a difference, and so they did. You can make a difference too. The age you are right now is exactly the age you need to be used by God. You don't have to wait until you're older to make a difference. You can accomplish big things right now.
Maybe God isn't calling you to climb a mountain or fight for world peace. Or maybe He is. But I'm guessing there are some really big, small things He's asking you to do. Like reaching out to that person in your school who needs a friend, or intervening the next time you see someone in the hallway being bullied. Maybe God is calling you to start a campaign at your school that helps people in your community. Maybe He wants you to start a conversation with someone about who Jesus is to you. Maybe these things don't sound quite as flashy as climbing Mount Everest or winning a Nobel Peace Prize, but they actually make a difference. Actually, sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
So go ahead. If you want to make a difference, believe you can. Stop making excuses. Then look around at the people God has put in your life, the people who know you and love you and can help you figure out how to make a difference right now. Timothy had Paul as a mentor. Who do you have? Maybe it's a parent, a coach, or a small group leader. Decide on at least one person who can speak into your life and help you discover all of the ways you can start making a difference right now. Remember, there is no age qualification for making a difference. You don't have to be older, smarter, or wiser to step into what God has for you.
A lot of important things would have never happened in this world if people like Jordan, Nadia, Malala, Mozart, and Timothy had waited until they were older to do them. You don't need to have it all together, and you don't need to wait until you're an adult to make a difference. You simply need to start believing God can use you. Because He can. He wants to do something really significant with you. He has a story to tell with your life. So go ahead. If you want to make a difference, you can start by simply believing that you can.